This video is based on previously unpublished transcripts of the only known face-to-face meeting between a human and a Nordic alien being. The meeting took place in October 1987. A UFO researcher named George Andrews was able to contact a Nordic through a woman in California. She facilitated the communication between George and the alien. The following is what the alien said to George. If you were a culture about to invade, you would not do it with a flourish of ships showing up in the heavens and run the risk of being fired upon. That's the type of warfare slightly less evolved beings get into. You would create intense confusion and disagreement with only inferences to your presence, inferences which would in turn cause controversial disagreement. The Greys are insidious little fiends. They did exactly to us what they're doing here to you. You are not on the verge of an invasion. You are not in the middle of an invasion. The invasion has already taken place. It's merely in its final stages. What would you invade? Here he describes the operational plan of the Greys from the beginning. You would go to the most secret of communities within a society. In the case of the United States, you would go and infiltrate the CIA. You would take over some of them, and you would take over part of the KGB. You would create great dissension and disagreement between factions of the public at large, some groups saying they have seen UFOs, others saying, no, this is not possible. You would involve two major countries in an ongoing, idiotic philosophical disagreement, so that while the Soviet Union and the United States constantly battle back and forth about who has which piece of territory, or whether one invades Iran, or whether one invades Afghanistan, or whatever, or whether one dismantles one nuclear warhead or the other dismantles another group of warheads, you would sit back and laugh if you had the capacity to laugh. You would present yourself indeed to some in a group who would protect you thinking they had a secret, more secret and more perfect knowledge of something than anyone else on this planet had. And they would covet you, and you would trust their own greed, and you would trust their own mass stupidity to trap them. And you'd do it on both sides. You'd show yourself to some of the mass populace to further involve the government in an attempt to shut them up, to keep them even more busy quieting them and trying to stop more information about UFOs from getting out. You'd have the mass populace to a state where they distrusted the government. Oh, why don't they believe us? Why can't they understand that these things are really happening? We're not crazy. So you would have battles constantly about whether UFOs exist or they don't exist. You would have the public and the government at each other's throats. You would have set two major superpowers at each other's throats, and you would have set up groups like haves, the wealthy but contented, and the have-nots. You would plant the seeds of massive discontent. Eventually, you might have some show of ships landing in the 1990s, one or two. By the time they have landed, be assured they will be in complete control. You will start doing crossbreeds and more crossbreeds, generation after generation. You bribe the government with a few tidbits, a Star Wars system. You tease and tempt the Soviet Union with a laser system far finer than any of their own scientists could think of. And you always have that subtle inference, just on the borderline of consciousness so that UFOs don't seem to believable. Yet you keep it couched in secrecy, and make it seem quite so insane that no one would believe them. On top of it, you would unleash forces that would want to kill them if they disclosed that the CIA is dealing with the exact same things the contact victim is. Maybe 100 or 200 years from now, some of the Greys will even physically mingle. And you may have some creatures walking around who are pretty much hybrids between Greys and your own race. For now, anything that walks around will look much like yourselves. It's simpler. It holds down on mass panic. Everyone who has experiences with them will be at odds with the government. To add to that, we will go into a complete phase of earthquake after earthquake and upheaval after upheaval. The inner core of the CIA is deeply controlled by the Greys. The CIA sees interaction with the Greys as a path to greater scientific achievement. One reason you are seeing so many different kinds of UFOs is that other cultures are watching with extreme interest. Scientists from other cultures arrive to watch. The Greys have not only taken over the intelligence agencies, they have also taken over what those agencies call lunatic fringe groups. This is the end of part 1. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to subscribe for more updates. There is a ranch at the foot of Archuleta Mesa. The owners were leasing the land to the government. As of 1984, there was a sign on the gate of the ranch prohibiting trespassers. There was also a military vehicle barrier positioned across the road. In addition, there were frequent flights overhead by various aircraft. These included helicopters, F-16s, and C-130s. The road leading to the mesa was frequently snow-covered, even when other roads in the vicinity were not. And the snow on the road leading to the mesa always seemed to melt quickly. According to the transcript, Benowitz was told by the ranch owner that during construction of the underground base, several workers died under mysterious circumstances. In fact, apparently many workers had to be withdrawn due to nervous breakdowns brought on by stress beyond that expected from such a remote and isolated work assignment. The workers were doing construction work that went far beyond that normally done by military construction crews. They were instructed to keep secret the fact that they were working at the base and were not even allowed to tell their families where they were working. Many of them quit after weeks of work and were never heard from again. Some of the more credible witnesses stated that the EBEs appeared to be in charge of the construction and operation of the base, and that the human workers had to follow their directions. Apparently, some of the human supervisors attempted to issue orders to the EBEs, but these orders were ignored. The EBEs did not seem to acknowledge the humans' authority. The base at Archuleta Mesa is just one of many that are spoken of in the transcripts of conversations between Campbell and Benowitz. No doubt we will hear more about them in the future, perhaps much more. And now some related links. There seems to be an ongoing fascination with aliens and UFOs in the general population. Is this fascination warranted? What does the Bible say about aliens and UFOs? Let's discuss that in the light of recent stories about a pastor who claims to have married an alien. If you would like to listen to the radio show, The Midnight Call, which discusses these and other paranormal subjects, click here. If you want to take a deeper dive into the subject matter, click here to visit my blog. And please consider subscribing. Until next time, walk good. This is the story of Dulce Base, a joint U.S. alien research facility located 1 kilometer beneath the Archuleta Mesa near Dulce, New Mexico. The base is 2.5 miles northwest of Dulce and almost overlooks the town. There is a level highway 36 feet wide going into the area. It is a government road. One can see telemetry trailers and buildings that are 5-sided with a dome, net to the domes. A black limousine was noted, a CIA vehicle. These limos will run you off the road if you try to get into the area. To the north, there is a launch site. There are 2 wrecked ships there. They are 36 feet long with wings, and one can see oxygen and hydrogen tanks. The ships that we got out of the trade are atomic-powered with plutonium pellets. Refueling of the plutonium is accomplished at Los Alamos. The base has been there since 1948. Some of the discs are piloted by the NSA. The base is 4,000 feet long, and helicopters are going in and out of there all the time. In the early 1970s, a rancher named Jesse Marcel discovered some strange objects on his land and took them to the sheriff. The sheriff contacted the local newspaper, the cause being a sensation. The sheriff asked the Army to come and get the objects, which they did. They came from Kirtland Air Force Base. Soon after this incident occurred, the mutilations began. Many cattle mutilations occurred around the Dulce area, leading many to believe that aliens were experimenting on these poor animals. A man named Benowitz was working for Sandia National Laboratory as a programmer. He was familiar with the base. When the mutilations reached epidemic proportions, he called the sheriff and told him about the base and what was probably happening. When it became known that Benowitz was familiar with this, the mutilations in the area stopped. In 1979, something happened, and the base was temporarily closed. There was an argument over weapons, and our people were chased out. The aliens killed 66 of our people, and 44 got away. One of the people who in fact got away was a CIA agent who, before leaving, made some notes, photos, and videotapes and went into hiding. He has been in hiding ever since, and every 6 months he contacts each of 5 people he left copies of the material with. His instructions were that if he missed 4 successive contacts, the people could do whatever they want with the material. This agent calls an individual known to MUFON. Somehow, a description of the Dulce papers was issued and was received in December 1987 by many researchers. The Dulce papers were composed of 25 black and white photos, a videotape with no dialogue, and a set of papers that included technical information regarding the jointly occupied U.S. alien facility 1 kilometer beneath the Archuleta Mesa near Dulce, New Mexico. The facility still exists and is currently operational. It is believed that there are 4 additional facilities of the same type, one being located a few miles to the southeast of Groom Lake, Nevada. A quick note here. There are many reports of strange lights and objects seen in the skies over Groom Lake, Nevada. It is known as the home of Area 51. In 1989, Bob Lazar came forward with information regarding this base. He was employed there and stated that there were 9 different anti-gravity propulsion craft on display that were recovered from various crash sites. He also stated that the propulsion craft were powered by a reactor that generated tremendous amounts of energy, possibly unlimited energy. Bob Lazar was interviewed by the George Knapp of the Las Vegas Review-Journal. Knapp visited Groom Lake and spoke with several witnesses and was able to corroborate some of Lazar's claims. During the initial interview of Bob Lazar, Knapp asked him where he got his information. Bob replied, "From personal experience." Knapp pressed him for more details, and Bob said he could not reveal any more information because of an NDA. He did, however, show Knapp some of the crafts personally. In one instance, Knapp asked Bob if he could take a photo of one of the crafts. Bob declined and said, "You can't take a photo of it. It's an anti-gravity flying craft. You'd need X-ray specs." Knapp then asked if he could at least take a sketch of the craft, and Bob agreed. He allowed Knapp to sketch one of the smaller flying discs, which had a total of 29 windows. After finishing his sketch, Knapp looked up and noticed that the craft had moved slightly. He then asked Bob if he could just look through the window of the craft, and Bob said, "No, you can't. If you looked through it, you wouldn't come back." Thanks for watching. Do you believe in aliens? Let me know in the comments below. A general description of what these papers contain is that they contain documents that discuss copper and molybdenum, and papers that discuss magnesium and potassium, but mostly papers about copper. Sheets of paper with charts and strange diagrams. Papers that discuss UV light and gamma rays. These papers tell what the aliens are after and how the blood, taken from cattle, is used. The aliens seem to absorb atoms to eat. They put their hands in blood, sort of like a sponge, for nourishment. It's not just food they want. The DNA in cattle and humans is being altered. The Type 1 creature is a lab animal. They know how to change the atoms to create a temporary, almost human being. It is made with animal tissue and depends on a computer to simulate memory. Memory the computer has withdrawn from another human. Clones. The almost human being is slow and clumsy. Real humans are used for training, to experiment with and to breed with these almost humans. Some humans are kidnapped and used completely. Some are kept in large tubes and are kept alive in an amber liquid. Some humans are brainwashed and used to distort the truth. Certain male humans have a high sperm count and are kept alive. Their sperm is used to alter the DNA and create a non-gender being called Type 2. That sperm is grown in some way and altered again, put in wombs. They resemble ugly humans when growing but look normal when fully grown, which only takes a few months from fetus size. They have a short lifespan, less than a year. Some female. Humans are used for breeding. Countless women have had a sudden miscarriage after about 3 months' pregnancy. Some never know they were pregnant, others remember contact some way. The fetus is used to mix the DNA in types 1 and 2. The atomic makeup in that fetus is half human, half almost human, and would not survive in the mother's womb. It is taken at 3 months and grown elsewhere. Well, that's what the Dulce Papers review says. There are some pen and ink reproductions of some of the photos made in the laboratories. 3. An illustration of what one of the wombs looks like, 2x4s. An illustration showing one of the tubes where one of the almost humans is grown. A page showing a simple diagram of crystalline metal, pure gold crystal, and what looks like either a genetic or metallurgical diagram or chart. Also attached is what looks like an X-ray diffraction pattern and a diagram of hexagonal crystals, with a comment that they are best for electrical conduction. It would appear that the last half of material in the review applies to the supercrystalline metal used for hull structure, or something along that line. Obviously, this is all rather bizarre from a certain point of view. Any point of view, in fact. Nevertheless, material that is supported by years of descriptions and multitudes of corroborations must mean something, especially when bumped against what is seen to be going on. It is apparent from this and other data that has been accumulated over the years that there are underground bases and tunnel complexes all over the world, and that more are being constructed all the time. Many of you may recall the Shaver mysteries and Inner Earth city stories. Well, all that is true. There are cities down there, amongst other things, and some of them have nothing to do with the main subject of this paper. They've been there for a long time. Let's change direction for a moment. One individual by the name of Lou Terry has been working on some ideas regarding UFOs and geomagnetic anomalies. I will go into what he has discovered, although the concept of the relationship is not new, and let you judge that for yourself. After purchasing aeromagnetic and gravitational anomaly maps from the United States Geological Survey, it becomes evident that there was indeed a valid connection between these areas and UFOs. Mr. Terry gave a lecture in Arizona about that relationship and was subsequently harassed by the FBI and told that the information is sensitive. Mr. Terry took the hint and declined to talk publicly about it to the degree that he had been doing. Both the aeromagnetic and gravitational Bouguer gravity maps indicate basic field strength, as well as areas of high and low field strength. Interestingly enough, the areas of maximum and minimum field strength have the following. All have frequent UFO sightings. All are either on Indian reservations, government land, or the government is trying to buy up the land. Many of them, especially where several are clustered together, are suspected bases areas and/or areas where mutilations and abductions have historically taken place. In these observations, Mr. Terry has gone far, but he has gone a little farther in noting that there are times when the UFOs are seen in these areas. Through painstaking research, Mr. Terry found that the sightings, as well as many abductions and mutilations, occur on the new moon or within 2 days before the new moon. On the full moon or within 2 days before the full moon. At the perihelion, moon closest to Earth, or within 2 days before the perihelion. A glance at the nearest Farmer's Almanac will give you the information you require as far as the days for this year or any other one. There seems to be no concrete explanation for the coincidence of the times and the events, but it is true. The reason for the unusual activity in these areas during these times is not known, but it could be related to the fact that the magnetic field strength is at its lowest or highest point. This could also be the reason why the natural, native people have traditionally avoided these places, calling them hell on earth, or places where the veil between worlds is at its thinnest. It is possible that the government knows this and is trying to buy up or lease the land for use by private contractors, since many of the sightings and activities have occurred on Indian reservations. The Indian reservations were set aside for the native people as a sort of sovereignty area, where the government couldn't interfere with them. If this is so, the government could be circumventing their own laws and those treaties by getting around it through backhanded means. The native people would probably be paid off in some manner and the land used for nefarious purposes. Or perhaps the government is trying to establish a base in these areas because they know that the extraterrestrial beings are going to be there, and it doesn't matter what they do. We have already established that many of these areas have previously been used, and some of them are very ancient sites, Something like the Skinwalker Ranch in Utah is a good example. Other examples can be found throughout the Southwest and some east of the Mississippi River. The cyclic nature of the activity in these areas, along with the UFO and related activity, makes it highly suspicious. And if the government wasn't involved, why would they try to keep it quiet? Why would they harass someone who was merely doing research and talking about it? If there is a connection, and I believe there is, then there is likely an electromagnetic component to it. The exact mechanics of how this would work is unknown, but it is obvious that the magnetic field fluctuations of the Earth affect the veil between our world and the next. It is also logical to assume that the electromagnetic fields generated by vehicles such as UFOs would have an effect on this veil, making it even thinner and easier to penetrate. The fact that the greatest UFO activity occurs during cyclic periods of magnetic fluctuation, especially around the solstices and equinoxes, supports this theory. If you wish to pursue this matter further, you can order the maps from the U.S. Geological Survey. The gravitational map is a little hard to interpret, but the magnetic one is pretty straightforward. You can also order the aeromagnetic map of the moon. When you compare the two maps, you will notice some interesting similarities. Obviously, there are major similarities in the polar regions. What's going on up there? I think this about covers it for now. Thanks for listening, and make sure to leave your feedback below.